The water was freezing. It was after midnight. I heard screaming over the phone, then silence. My daughter was crying, pregnant, on a yacht. Someone shouted, "Get off my boat," then a splash. And before the line cut, I heard him laugh. What he didn't know was who I was about to call. My name is Michael Hargrove. I'm 59 years old. I live in Port Alton. What happened that night on the water changed our family forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments. Where are you listening from? I was halfway through locking up the marina office when my phone rang. Not buzzed, not vibrated, rang hard. It was close to midnight, and the docks had gone quiet in that heavy, hollow way they do when the wind dies and the water sounds like it's holding its breath. I almost let it go. Almost. Then I saw the caller ID. Lena, my daughter, never called that late, not anymore. Not since she married Grant Wilder and started spending her weekends drifting between his yacht and his friends' parties. I answered. "Dad," she said, just that. One word. Her voice was wrong, thin. Pressed tight like she was trying not to cry. "Where are you?" I asked, already walking toward my truck. "I'm on the water," she whispered. "What?" "The yacht." "We left the harbor an hour ago." I stopped moving. Lena was 7 months pregnant. She wasn't supposed to be on that boat at night. She hated the cold. She hated deep water even more. "Is Grant with you?" I asked. There was a pause, then very softly, "Yes." I heard music in the background, laughter, glass clinking, the sound of people who didn't care. "Dad," she said again, and this time her voice cracked. "He's been drinking." My chest tightened. "Put him on the phone." "I can't," she said quickly. "He's angry." I leaned against the truck door, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Lena, listen to me. You're coming back to the dock, right now." Another pause, then the sound of a door opening. Wind rushed through the phone. "Who are you talking to?" A man's voice said, slurred, sharp. "Grant." I was just. Lena started. The phone shifted. I heard scuffling, a sharp inhale. "Hey," I snapped into the phone. "This is her father." There was a laugh, low, mocking. "Your father?" Grant said. "It's late, you should be asleep." "She's pregnant," I said. "Turn the boat around." He laughed again, louder this time. "You don't tell me what to do on my boat." "Grant," Lena whispered. "Please." Something heavy scraped. A chair, a table leg. "You embarrassed me," Grant snapped, "in front of everyone." "I didn't do anything," she said. "Exactly," he said. "You never do." My hands were shaking now. "Grant," I said slowly. "You're crossing a line." There was silence on the other end, then footsteps, slow, deliberate. "Listen, old man," he said. "This is between my wife and me. She's not your property," I said. Another laugh, closer to the phone now. "She is tonight." "Dad," Lena said, her voice suddenly higher, panicked. "Dad, he's..." The phone dropped. I heard shouting. Someone telling someone else to back off. Music cutting out, the engine idling lower. Then Grant's voice again, cold now. "You want drama," he said. "I'll give you drama." "Grant," I shouted. "Stop," I heard Lena scream my name. Then a splash, not a small one, a heavy one, the kind that sucks the air out of your lungs just hearing it. The line went dead. For a moment I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The world narrowed down to the sound of my own heartbeat and the echo of that splash in my ears. Then instinct kicked in. I was in my truck before I realized I opened the door. Tires screamed as I tore out of the lot, dialing her number again and again. No answer. I called the harbor master. No answer. I called the Coast Guard station. Busy. I punched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles split. Halfway to the docks, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. "Mr. Hargrove?" a man asked. "Yes, this is Eli Navarro." I worked the night crew at Driftline Marina. My throat went dry. "Where's my daughter?" There was a pause, just long enough to scare me. "There was an incident," he said. "A yacht came in fast." Too fast? A woman was pulled from the water. "Is she alive?" I demanded. "Yes," he said quickly. "She's conscious, shaking. We wrapped her in blankets." "Ambulance is on the way." I exhaled so hard it hurt. "And Grant?" I asked. Another pause. "He didn't come back with her," Eli said. He took off again. I slammed on the brakes at the marina entrance and jumped out before the truck fully stopped. The night air cut through me as I ran. Lena was sitting on a bench near the fuel dock, soaked to the bone. Her hair clung to her face. Her hands were wrapped around her belly, shaking uncontrollably. I dropped to my knees in front of her. "I've got you," I said, pulling her into my coat. "I've got you." She buried her face in my chest and sobbed. "He pushed me," she whispered. "He actually pushed me." I closed my eyes. The paramedics arrived and started asking questions. I barely heard them. All I could see was the bruise forming along Lena's shoulder, the way her teeth wouldn't stop chattering. They loaded her into the ambulance. I climbed in beside her. As the doors closed, my phone buzzed again. A text from Grant. She slipped. Don't make this worse than it is. I stared at the screen, my hands steady now in a way they hadn't been minutes ago, because something inside me had changed. Grant thought this was over. He thought money, water, and silence would protect him. He didn't know who I was about to call, and he had no idea how far this was going to go. The ambulance doors closed with a hollow thud that felt final. Lena's hand stayed locked around mine as the vehicle lurched forward. Her skin was ice cold. Not just from the water, fear leaves a different kind of chill. Stay with me, I said. Talk to me. She nodded, eyes unfocused. I didn't think he would actually do it, she whispered. He was yelling, everyone was laughing. I thought he'd stop. I swallowed hard. Who was there? His friends, she said. People who don't ask questions. The paramedic cut in gently. Sir, we need to check her vitals. I leaned back, watching the steady rhythm of machines do what I couldn't. When the ambulance turned toward the hospital, my phone vibrated again. Another message from Grant. You're blowing this out of proportion. I didn't respond. At the hospital, they moved fast. Warm blankets, monitors, quiet urgency. A nurse asked Lena questions while a doctor listened to the baby's heartbeat. That sound, steady and strong, was the first thing that kept me upright. She's stable, the doctor said. We'll keep her overnight for observation. Can I stay? I asked. He nodded. Of course. When the room finally quieted, Lena looked at me with wet eyes. He's going to say I jumped, she said. He already said it on the boat. I squeezed her hand. Then we make sure the truth speaks louder. She hesitated. Dad, I don't want to fight. I leaned closer. This isn't a fight. It's protection. After she fell asleep, I stepped into the hallway and made the call I should have made an hour earlier. Caleb, I said when the line picked up. I need you. My brother didn't ask questions. He never did when it mattered. Where? Driftline Marina. There was an incident. On my way, he said. Caleb had spent most of his life working the water, rescue, salvage, things that didn't leave clean records. He knew boats, he knew tides, and he knew when someone was lying. By the time he arrived, the marina was quiet again, too quiet. We walked the dock together under the sodium lights. Start from the top, he said. I told him everything. The call, the splash. The yacht speeding away. Caleb crouched near the edge of the dock and pointed to a smear along the railing. That's not a slip, he said. That's a shove. You can see the direction. My jaw tightened. We found Eli, the night crew worker, finishing a report. He looked nervous when he saw us. I told the police what I saw, he said. But there wasn't much. What did you see? Caleb asked. Eli swallowed. I saw the yacht come in hard. I saw a woman pulled from the water by two deckhands. She was crying, shaking. Then the yacht left. Did you hear anything? I asked. Eli hesitated. I heard someone say, you shouldn't have pushed her. My heart hammered. Who said that? Eli looked away. One of the guests, a woman, Caleb nodded. Names? Eli shook his head. I can try to remember faces. That's enough, Caleb said. The police arrived later that night. They took statements. Photographed the railing. Logged the messages Grant sent me. When an officer asked Lena what happened, she didn't waver. He pushed me, she said. I didn't fall. Grant didn't come to the hospital. He sent a lawyer. The next morning, while Lena slept, a man in a tailored suit introduced himself to me in the hallway. Mr. Hargrove, I represent Grant Wilder. I folded my arms. Good for him, he smiled thinly. My client is devastated. He insists this was an accident. Then he should come say that himself, I replied. The lawyer glanced at Lena's room. My client is concerned about exaggeration. Stress can distort memory. I stepped closer. So can alcohol. The smile vanished. That afternoon, Caleb brought me something he'd pulled from a friend who serviced yachts. Grant's boat has cameras, he said. Not all of them were turned off. My pulse jumped. Can we get the footage legally? He said. Not yet. Illegally, he gave me a look. I said I'd help. I didn't say how. By evening, Lena was awake and clearer. He took my phone, she said suddenly, before it happened. When? I asked. Earlier, said I didn't need it. Caleb's eyes flicked to mine. Control, he muttered. The nurse returned Lena's belongings, a bag, shoes, a scarf, but no phone. That night, while Lena slept, I sat in the chair by her bed and listened to the rain hit the windows. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Grant. Unknown number. If you want this to go away, stop talking to the police. I didn't reply. Another message followed. You don't know who you're dealing with. I stood and walked into the hallway, dialing Caleb. They're rattled, he said after I read him the texts. That means we're close. The next morning, the hospital's social worker came by. There's concern about domestic violence, she said gently. We can help with a safety plan. Lena nodded. I don't want to go back. Then you won't, I said. By noon, Grant finally showed up, flanked by his lawyer, sunglasses on indoors. He stopped short when he saw me. This is insane, he said. She slipped. Say it again, I said quietly. He didn't. The doctor stepped in. Sir, we need you to leave. Grant looked at Lena. You're embarrassing yourself. She met his gaze. You pushed me. His jaw tightened. He turned and walked out. Caleb arrived that evening with a thumb drive. I didn't watch it, he said. You should. I plugged it into my laptop in the quiet room. The footage wasn't perfect. Wind, music, laughter. Then Grant's voice, sharp and clear. Then Lena stepping back. Then his hand. The shove wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. I closed the laptop and sat there, breathing through the anger. We had proof, but proof doesn't end things. It starts them. I didn't tell Lena about the footage right away. Not because I wanted to hide it from her, but because once truth is spoken out loud, it can't be put back. And I needed her focused on healing, not bracing for war. Caleb and I watched it again in the hospital parking lot, the laptop balanced on the hood of his truck. The shove was small, casual, almost bored. That was the worst part. No panic. No loss of balance, just entitlement. People like him, Caleb said quietly, don't think of consequences, they think of ownership. I nodded, jaw tight. What do we do now? Caleb closed the laptop. Now we control the timeline. The police had the report. The hospital had documented the injuries. But money has a way of slowing things down, and Grant had plenty of it. By the time Lena was discharged 2 days later, rumors had already started. I knew because my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Friends asking careful questions, distant relatives pretending concern, one former coworker who flat out asked if Lena had always been dramatic. I hung up on that one. Lena noticed too. They're saying I fell, she said one afternoon, scrolling through her phone with trembling fingers. Someone posted that I was drunk. You weren't, I said. I know, she replied. But they don't. That night, Grant filed first. A civil statement claiming defamation and emotional distress against Lena. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so cruel. Our lawyer, a woman named Marisol Trent, sharp-eyed and direct, didn't even blink when she read it. This is intimidation, she said. Classic reversal. He's trying to make her doubt herself. It's working, Lena whispered. Marisol leaned forward. Then we moved faster. The next week blurred into appointments, police interviews, medical evaluations, statements recorded and re-recorded. Each time, Lena told the same story. Each time her voice steadied. Grant didn't speak to the police. He sent statements through attorneys. He refused to surrender the yacht for inspection. He posted photos online, smiling, carefree, surrounded by friends. The message was clear, I'm untouchable. Then something unexpected happened. One of the women who'd been on the yacht that night reached out. Her name was Tessa. She called me directly. I don't want my name public, she said, voice shaking. But what he did wasn't right. What did you see? I asked. He was angry. He'd been drinking. Your daughter tried to leave the deck. He grabbed her arm. She pulled away. He shoved her. My grip tightened on the phone. Will you say that officially? There was a long pause. I'm scared, she said. He threatened all of us. That word again, threatened. I told Marisol everything. She nodded. Fear is leverage. We break it by stacking truth. 2 more guests came forward anonymously. Similar stories, different details, same ending. Meanwhile, Grant escalated. Lena's car was followed. Her emails flooded with legal notices. A courier delivered a settlement offer with a confidentiality clause. I didn't let Lena read it. She didn't need to see how cheaply he valued silence. One evening, as we were leaving a prenatal appointment, Grant appeared in the parking lot. No lawyer, no sunglasses, just him. Lena, he said softly, please. I stepped between them. Move, he said to me. No, he looked past me. I was drunk, I made a mistake. You pushed me, Lena said. He exhaled sharply. I lost my temper, but you're making this public. You're ruining me. She didn't raise her voice. You did this, she said. His eyes flicked to her stomach. Think about the baby. That was it. I grabbed his collar before I even realized I'd moved. Caleb pulled me back. Not worth it, he said under his breath. Grant straightened his jacket, face pale. You don't know who you're messing with. I smiled for the first time in days. You're right, I said. You don't. That night, Marisol filed a motion to compel release of the yacht footage. The court approved it faster than anyone expected. Turns out, judges don't like midnight shoves. The footage went into evidence. Grant's lawyer asked for delays, denied. The district attorney called Marisol the next morning. We're opening a criminal investigation, he said. Lena cried when I told her, not from fear, from relief. The pressure shifted instantly. Grant's social circle went quiet. Sponsors pulled back. Friends stopped tagging him online. The man who'd laughed at the splash was suddenly very careful, but he wasn't done. 2 days later, someone vandalized Lena's car. Nothing dramatic, just enough to scare. A note left under the wiper. This didn't have to happen. Caleb called it in. The police added it to the file. Grant's name wasn't on the note. It didn't need to be. That evening, Lena sat beside me on the porch, hands folded over her belly. "I keep thinking I should have jumped," she said quietly. "Then it would have been my fault." I shook my head. "No, that's what he wants you to believe." She nodded slowly. "I won't." The next morning, Grant was arrested. Quietly, no cameras. But the news broke anyway. Local businessman charged in yacht assault case. Lena didn't read the article. She didn't need to. She stood taller that day, walked steadier, still scared, but not alone. And I knew the storm hadn't passed yet, but we were finally standing in the open. The arrest didn't feel like victory. It felt like a door opening into a longer hallway. Grant was released the same day on bail. His money made sure of that, but the tone changed overnight. Where there had been arrogance, there was now strategy. Silence became calculated. Marisol warned us early. "This is where they try to exhaust you," she said. "They delay, they poke. They hope you'll fold." Lena listened quietly, one hand resting on her stomach. "I won't," she said, and for the first time I believed her completely. The prosecution moved quickly. They had the footage, witness statements, medical records. The shove wasn't ambiguous anymore. Grant's defense shifted tactics. They stopped denying it happened. They reframed it, an argument. Alcohol involved, a moment of regret, a tragic misunderstanding. That phrase showed up everywhere, in press statements, in whispered conversations, in the comments under news articles. "He didn't mean to. She shouldn't have been on the boat. Why was she out so late?" Lena read them once, never again. The first hearing was held in a small courtroom that smelled like old paper and disinfectant. Grant sat at the defense table in a tailored suit, hair perfectly styled, expression carefully neutral. He didn't look at Lena. I sat behind her, close enough to feel the tension in her shoulders. When the judge asked her to testify, the room went still. Lena stood, her voice didn't shake. She described the night from beginning to end. The party, the drinking, the argument, the shove. She didn't dramatize it. She didn't cry. That was more powerful than tears. Grant's attorney stood for cross-examination. "Mrs. Wilder," he said smoothly, "isn't it true that you were upset earlier that evening?" "Yes," Lena replied. "Because he was drunk, and you wanted to leave?" "Yes. So when he reached for you, he shoved me," she said firmly. The attorney smiled thinly. "Isn't it possible you lost your balance?" Lena paused. I held my breath. "No," she said. "I remember his hand on my shoulder. I remember the push. I remember hitting the water." The smile disappeared. The judge watched closely. Then came the witnesses. Tessa testified from behind a screen, voice trembling but clear. "I told him to stop," she said. "He didn't," Grant's lawyer objected. Overruled. The footage played. No sound this time, just motion. Grant leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on the table. After the hearing, the judge denied a motion to dismiss. The case would proceed. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited. Lena ignored them. Grant didn't. He stepped forward and spoke. "This has been the worst mistake of my life," he said. "I love my wife. I would never intentionally harm her." That word again, intentionally. Lena watched the clip later that night and turned off the TV. "He still doesn't get it," she said. "No," I replied. "He gets it. He just doesn't accept it." The pressure ramped up after that. Grant's friends stopped returning calls. His investors distanced themselves. The yacht was seized pending investigation. And then, predictably, he tried one last angle. He requested mediation. A private meeting. Marisol advised against it, but Lena surprised us. "I want to hear him," she said. Once, with witnesses. The meeting took place in a conference room at the courthouse. Grant walked in alone. He looked smaller, older. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Then he spoke. "This didn't have to be this way," he said to Lena. "We could have handled it quietly." Lena stared at him. "You pushed me into the ocean while I was pregnant," she said. "There is no quiet version of that." He rubbed his face. "I lost control." "No," she said. "You exercised it." That sentence landed like a verdict. Grant looked at me. "You poisoned her against me." I stood. "You did that yourself." The mediation ended there. Weeks passed. Lena's pregnancy progressed. Her strength returned slowly, unevenly, but real. The trial date was set. On the morning of jury selection, Grant took a plea deal. Assault, reckless endangerment, probation, mandatory counseling, loss of boating license. No jail, Lena closed her eyes when Marisol told us. I wanted more, she admitted. Marisol nodded. Justice isn't always satisfying, but this sticks. Grant signed the agreement without looking at Lena. When it was over, he left through a side door. That was the last time we saw him. That night, Lena sat on the dock near my house, feet dangling above the water. She watched the waves quietly. I'm scared of it now, she said. The water, she nodded, but I don't want to be. I sat beside her. You don't have to decide that tonight, I said. She rested her head on my shoulder. For the first time since that call at midnight, the water was just water again. Not a weapon, not a threat, just something that moved and passed. And for the first time, I felt like we might finally be moving forward too. Life didn't snap back into place after the plea deal. It loosened, slowly, unevenly. Like a knot you've lived with for too long, Grant faded from the headlines within a week. Another story replaced him, another scandal, another distraction. But for Lena, the story didn't end with a signed document. It lived in her body, in the way she paused before stepping onto a dock, in the way sudden noises made her shoulders tense. In the way she checked doors twice before sleeping. Some mornings were good, others were quiet in a way that felt fragile. We adjusted. I drove her to appointments. Linda helped set up the nursery in the spare room. Caleb stopped by more often, always with an excuse, never admitting he was checking on us. One afternoon, while folding baby clothes, Lena froze. What if he shows up? She asked. He won't, I said. But what if he does? I didn't answer right away. Then he'll leave, I said finally. Because he doesn't control you anymore. She nodded, but I could tell the fear hadn't fully let go. That fear resurfaced 2 weeks later. A letter arrived, not from Grant, from his father. It was handwritten, careful, polite. He expressed deep regret. He hoped Lena would find peace. He asked, very gently, if she would reconsider pressing forward with civil damages. At the bottom, a number was written, a large one. Lena read it twice, then slid the letter across the table. He's trying to buy closure, she said. He's trying to buy silence, I replied. She didn't hesitate. No, Marisol wasn't surprised. They always try one last move, she said. It helps them feel like they still have leverage. Do they? Lena asked. Marisol smiled. Not if you say no. The civil case moved forward quietly. No cameras this time. Depositions, documents, bank records. It turned out Grant's behavior wasn't new. 2 prior incidents surfaced. Both settled privately, both buried. That knowledge hit Lena hard. I wasn't the first, she whispered. No, I said, but you're the one who stopped it. That mattered. As the due date approached, Lena grew calmer, focused. She started therapy, not because anyone told her to, but because she wanted her child to inherit something better than fear. One evening, she came into the living room with a small smile. I walked onto the dock today, she said, just for a minute. Linda hugged her. I said nothing. I didn't want to turn it into a victory speech. Some wins deserve quiet. Grant violated probation once, missed a counseling session. It earned him a warning, nothing more, but it rattled him. His lawyer reached out again. Marisol declined. The message was clear. This chapter was closed. On a rainy night in late spring, Lena's water broke. The drive to the hospital felt unreal. Like everything had been holding its breath for months and finally exhaled. She squeezed my hand through contractions. Dad, she said, tears in her eyes, I'm not scared. I believed her. Hours later, a cry filled the room. Strong, insistent, alive. Lena held her daughter against her chest, all written across her face. I did it, she whispered. Yes, I said. You did. In the weeks that followed, life reshaped itself around that small, new center. Midnight feedings, soft lights, quiet laughter. Grant's name stopped coming up. Until one evening, months later, when Lena found something unexpected. A voicemail, old, saved automatically. She played it on speaker. Grant's voice, slurred, angry, you don't leave me. I decide when this ends. She stared at the phone. I forgot this existed, she said. I watched her delete it, not out of denial, out of choice. The civil case settled shortly after. No admission of wrongdoing, but enough to ensure independence, enough to build something new. The last communication from Grant came through Marisol. A single line, he wishes to move on. Lena laughed when she heard it. So do I, she said. That night, as I rocked my granddaughter to sleep, I thought back to the splash, the cold, the fear, and how close we'd come to losing everything. Grant had thought power meant throwing someone away. He was wrong. Power was what Lena found afterward, in truth, in voice, in refusing to disappear. And as I looked at that sleeping child, I knew the story didn't end on the water. It began there. The first night Lena spent alone in her new apartment, she called me just after midnight. Not panicked, not crying, just quiet. "Dad," she said, "I can hear the river from my window." I pictured it immediately, the slow water, the steady sound, not like the ocean, not violent, predictable. "Is that okay?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "It feels honest." That was how I knew she was really healing, not because the fear was gone, but because it no longer decided things for her. The apartment was small, one bedroom, pale walls, a couch that doubled as a bed for late-night feedings. It wasn't the life she had imagined when she married Grant, but it was hers. We moved the last box in on a Saturday. Caleb carried the crib pieces up the stairs without saying a word, assembling them with the quiet focus he used on boats. Linda folded clothes into drawers. Lena stood in the doorway, arms crossed over her chest, taking it all in. "I never thought I'd start over like this," she said. "Most people don't," I replied. "That doesn't mean it's wrong," she nodded. The baby slept through most of the afternoon, unaware of how much history was packed into that little room. Weeks passed, then months. Grant's name stopped appearing in mail, in court filings, in conversations. When people asked about him, Lena said only, "We're done," and that was enough. The world surprisingly respected that. One afternoon, while we were walking along the river path, Lena stopped. There was a small dock extending into the water, weathered, unassuming. "I want to try," she said. I didn't rush her. Didn't offer encouragement or caution. I just stood there. She took one step, then another. Her hand trembled slightly at her side, but she didn't turn back. She stood at the edge, breathing. "I used to think water only took," she said, "but it also carries." She knelt and touched the surface, pulled her hand back. "I'm okay," she said softly. I felt something loosen in my chest that I hadn't realized was still tight. That night, she sent me a photo. Just the river, just light on water, no caption. I kept it anyway. The civil settlement finalized quietly. No press, no statements, just signatures and the closing of a file. Grant relocated. That was the word Marisol used, relocated. As if you could move away from what you'd done. But that wasn't my problem anymore. One evening, after putting the baby down, Lena sat across from me at her kitchen table. "I want to change my name back," she said. I smiled. "Any reason?" "I don't want to carry his weight," she replied. "Not anymore." We filled out the paperwork together. When the confirmation arrived weeks later, she held the document like it was something fragile. "It feels lighter," she said. That winter, Lena started speaking to a small support group. Nothing public, no stages, just rooms full of people who listened. She never told the story the same way twice. Sometimes she focused on fear, sometimes on anger, sometimes on survival. But she always ended the same way. "I called my dad," she said, "and he answered." That line stayed with me because it wasn't heroism, it was presence, that's all it ever was. On the anniversary of that night, the one that began with a call and ended with cold water, we went back to the marina. Not Driftline, a different one, quiet, empty. We stood at the edge together. "I don't hate him anymore," Lena said suddenly. I looked at her. "I don't forgive him either," she added. "I just don't want him living in me." That sounded like freedom. As the sun dipped low, she turned to me. "Do you know what he said right before?" she asked. I stiffened. "Before what?" "Before he pushed me," she said. "He said you won't leave me." She shook her head slowly. He was wrong. I watched her walk back toward the car, confident, steady. The water stayed behind. Later that night, after everyone had gone to sleep, I sat alone on my porch. I thought about that call. 2:00 a.m., the fear in her voice, the splash, the rage. I thought about how easily it could have ended differently, how silence might have won, and how answering a phone changed everything. There are moments in life that define you, not because you're brave, but because you choose to act when doing nothing would be easier. Grant thought power meant pushing someone away. He never understood what power really was. Power was a daughter who chose to live. Power was truth that refused to sink. Power was a call answered in the middle of the night. And as long as I'm breathing, no one will ever mistake my silence for permission again.